And welcome back, everyone. Wanted to jump on here and make a video about the nodal shift that we're going to be experiencing here. For 18 months, the nodes have been passing through Virgo and Pisces, and we've been learning lessons of perfection and surrender and, you know, letting go, having grace for ourselves. Lots of things like this. We're going to get into some more of that. But I want to talk about the very end degree. The nodes travel backwards. So in this case, the very end degree is 0 degrees Pisces and Virgo, and that's where the nodes are currently at. So let me share this screen here. We can elaborate on this a little bit. We've got the nodes here at the final degrees of Virgo Pisces. And what I see there and is we're letting go of some of the patterns that we may have had that have kept us trapped in cycles of needing to be perfect, not feeling good enough, not being able to differentiate ourselves between what others expect of us and what is ours within. I think that that is a huge part of the Virgo side of this is being able to differentiate learned guilt from earned guilt, perfection that may be coming from parts of ourselves that we've taken on as an internal authority that has criticized and is in there constantly telling us this isn't good enough, this isn't what we've done. And so that differentiation is to be able to sort through which voices are actually ours and which voices are some that we've taken on from possibly childhood or teachers or just parts of us that generally, I mean, they want us to be perfect so that we can survive. It's a survival strategy that was adapted out of fear. And so, what would it take for those parts to feel safe? And then the balance here is that surrender and the grace and the acceptance of what is, and being able to tolerate the uncertainty. Virgo often wants certainty. It wants to be able to really define what is there and how is it going to happen and do the work to make things safe. And so, how can we surrender to letting go and allowing the grace and the trust in the universe that things are working in our favor and things are moving in the right direction? Well, as we move forward, let's see if we can get this to when it moves in. That's the very last minute. And here we go. They start into Aquarius and Leo. And what is this about? Like this, for me, uh, working with the inner parts world and the inner community is a very interesting time in my world. I really like that the North Node is in Aquarius. Aquarius has to do with communities, and of course, on this channel, we're going to talk about the inner community and what does that mean. And the South Node in Leo, what is our individual expression, and how can we bring this individual expression into the inner community and the outer community? Look, it starts all on the inside, right? But how can we feel safe enough to bring our unique expression into the community while expressing that individuality, that creativity, that straight from the heart playfulness that can really shine. But I really think that there's some nuances to be had here because when you talk about Aquarius in the part systems and this inner community, we can have parts of us that uh, have learned to blend into the wallpaper to stay safe and to not express yourself fully or to change how you express yourself because you're not wanting to be alienated. And for a lot of us that have complex post-traumatic stress syndrome that has developed slowly over long periods of time through childhood and uh, other situations in adulthood where this is built up, we can really end up backed up into a corner so much that we're so afraid of expressing ourselves that we look to make sure that we're doing it in a way that other people are doing it and they're safe. And so I really like the fact that Jupiter is here for this in Leo. It's going to be here for most of the time here, and I like the fact that the North Node is culminating into Chariklo and to Pluto here. I think that this is a really beautiful way for this to develop. And I think that one of the other things I want to make sure is that people understand is the lessons from the Virgo Pisces, just because they shift signs doesn't mean that, okay, it's over, we're done with this and we're moving on. What we're seeing now is can we bring those lessons into this axis and learn to integrate those and embody those and bring those into our daily lives. And that's a Virgo thing. But I think that what I guess the point that I'm trying to make is it it doesn't just end when they move. And so we're going to have points where as we go through the next year and a half, 18 months with these in the next sign, you're going to have points where you get these flashes of insight and where your experience from the time when the nodes were passing through Virgo Pisces brings that aha moment to where you're like, okay, that's what it was trying to teach me. That's what it was all about. So don't feel like, oh man, I haven't made it. I haven't done it. I don't feel complete. I mean, it's a very Virgo thing, and it's probably pretty prominent right now with the nodes where they are at 0 degrees Virgo Pisces. And letting go of that is a long process. And there may be parts of us that actually feel like, oh, we should be able to totally let go of that. And that's not the way it works. The full integration, I believe, comes in when you can feel that and know that, oh wow, I didn't do that perfect, but you're refining, right? We're perfecting, we're not perfect. So we're allowing this to gel and we're seeing the places where we maybe didn't perform right and we're going back and repairing. And when we bring this inner psychology into Leo and Aquarius, what I see is this this journey of being able to bring our unique individuality in harmony with the community. And I think that what that requires is in an interfamily system, oftentimes they say, oh, the self needs to learn to lead. And self energy is that energy, that spark of divine light that is never damaged, no matter what we've been through, no matter what's happened. It's always this divine spark, that self energy that can come forward and provide that leadership, that example, that light that can be comforting and provide the safety for us to be able to express that individuality. One of my favorite analogies for Aquarius is you got to raise that freak flag way high so that your community and your people, your tribe, they can find you. Because if you don't raise it all the way up out of fear of somebody else seeing it, and you're looking over your shoulder and trying to make sure that you are safe and not kicked out of the tribe, or not, look, if you're going to get kicked out of a tribe that you're in right now, maybe you're not in the right tribe. Maybe it's time to look at moving along and putting that flag up even a little higher so that you can find that right tribe. But I think that there's also, I mean, like I talked about when I was talking about Jupiter going into Leo, I think there's also a place where every energy has these three expressions, right? You've got the one where you ride below, the one where you ride above, where you're pushing too hard, you're trying too much. And I see that often with Leo, is where we're trying to get recognition, we're trying to push, we're trying to be too special, we're trying to we're bringing our inner world and making it so important, it's so big, and our heart is so far out there. But that comes from this place of lack. Because if it's that important that we need the recognition from the outside, that's not that comfort place. That's not that self energy, that spark of divine power and presence that is just so not in need of any recognition. And then that one below can be really afraid of humiliation. And I think that I have some parts of me in this space here, and in my life, I've gone back and forth with this, where you've gotten out in front of your skis, so to speak, where you might tumble over if you're going over a jump and you get too far ahead, you're gonna fall and face plant, and if when you've got experiences from childhood or life experience where you've been humiliated, it can be so scary to put yourself out there and really express that unique expression that is only you. I'm reading a book by James Hillman right now, The Soul's Code, and he talks about the diamond and this acorn that is the oak tree within itself, that's inside of everyone, that is only ours, right? It's an oak tree, but every oak tree is its own individual expression, and it's contained within each one of us, this oak tree, this acorn. And the way that we learn and tend to that seed and tend to the way that it grows requires us to be willing to be different. He spent a long chapter on uh, talking about some of the geniuses that have been throughout history that were almost like kicked out of school, that really did poorly in school. And that's kind of the way I see school sometimes, is they're getting you in, the Pink Floyd putting everybody in the meat grinder, and you come out the same way and everybody's marching to the same beat and all of that, and it is not a place for unique expressions to shine through. It's almost as if they're trying to beat that uniqueness out of us and get us to conform into, something that is not us and doesn't allow for that heartfelt expression. And so in the book, he talks about how a lot of these, like Einstein and other people, I can't remember which one, but quoted, school almost took it out of me. It almost got the rest of it out of me. And I almost lost that spark of what was me. And I think that's super important here, to be able to do this. We need to be able to expand our consciousness enough to see both sides here. And I think this blends really well with the inner family systems where, and James Hillman, where he talks about this pluralistic mind. Are we going to try and dominate and be the one that takes up all the space, or are we going to be able to open up and bring some of the lessons of humility and surrender into this transit, and be able to allow the other parts of us to express? Because look, and I'll illustrate it this way. Nobody likes to work in a workplace where the boss takes all the credit for all of the people under him, their ideas, or her under them, their ideas, because like that's just this selfishness. It's trying to grab up all the light and not allow it to shine. Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun is not discriminate about where it shines its light. It's like, one of the teachers I had, Patricia Walsh, she said, if I shine, you shine, we all shine. And so I think that allowing the parts of ourselves that can come through, it fosters this space of inclusion and and community. And I really think that's what we're here to learn this time with the ruler in Gemini, this curiosity. I keep coming back to this trine between Pluto and Uranus here. We're here to foster and cultivate this curiosity and this openness, because curiosity is like this lack of fear, right? And fear is where we close up and we stifle ourselves, or we act out of fear, which is that vacuum behind us again. And so I think over the next 18 months, we're going to be going through this journey of learning to allow ourselves to share the light while bringing in that uniqueness that only we have, that acorn, that diamond, that certain uh, spark of playful curiosity. And you know, when you try to blend in or try to look around to see what everybody else is doing to make sure that your expression isn't going to go too far, isn't going to not match and get you alienated from other people, that's trying to contain that light. And nobody is doing anybody any favors by trying to contain their creativity and their playfulness. Fire signs want freedom. They want the freedom of expression and to be able to express that and remove the blockages to that freedom is what I think about when I think about a fire sign. What is preventing that expression? And when we look to the polarity it's that fear of expression, that trying to blend into the wallpaper. My dad brought that up. I mean, I can't remember how young I was at the time, to be fair. I have a Saturn retrograde, and I rebelled against authority really badly when I was young. And so he was trying to calm some of that energy within me by telling me maybe I should try to just kind of blend into the wallpaper rather than stand out. And I think that parts of me really took that to heart. And as I got older, as I ended up uh, backing myself so far into a corner where that strategy had just dimmed my light so much that I couldn't express it. I couldn't be my unique self. It always had to be uh, okay for the collective, okay for everybody else. I think that you can take it too far. I think you can take it too far in the other direction too, and expect everybody else to recognize you and you know get too far out in front of your skis, and then you end up humiliated, and then we end up with the problem where you can be afraid to be humiliated, afraid to express, and then you're doing the same thing. You're trying to blend in, and so I think that's what I want to express for this. But I want to make sure that people know, just because we're completing the nodes in Virgo Pisces, we're going to be bringing those lessons with us. I love the analogy, or the archetype of the bone mother. That's a Saturn archetype. It's a feminine archetype for Saturn. It's not as popular as a lot of them, but the bone mother sits atop a pile of bones, and that's lifetimes of experience. It's that crone energy. And we're not really talking about Saturn here, but we kind of are. I mean, Saturn is just going retrograde. This It's not actually today when I'm recording this, but by the time the nodes go in, you can see here that it's retrograde 1444. It's going to back up to 7 degrees 55 minutes of Aries. And I know that well because my progressed Saturn is at 755. Aries will be right where it stations direct. And I just had my Saturn return, my second Saturn return. And so a lot of this energy for me is about taking authority. Your Saturn returns, this Saturn demands of you to take authority for the things in your life that you haven't been. And I've been feeling a lot of that. And my natal Saturn is at 5 degrees 41 arc minutes. And so Neptune is right on top of it right now. And it's trying to dissolve these old inner structures where I've been trying to keep myself contained. And the progressed Saturn, in the progressed chart, my Saturn has stopped its retrograde motion and is now moving forward, and it's at 755. And so that's where Saturn's going to station and turn direct this time. And I think there's a lot of integration that is going to take place over the next while, about my individual expression, and Saturn is wearing down the ways that I've contained that heartfelt expression. It's a really beautiful signature. I'm going to make another video about the full moon coming up on the 29th in Aquarius. But I'll save some of that for the full moon video. It's coming right up, and so I'm excited to express some of that. So I'm going to leave it at that. I really like the way that this energy is developing with this all of this potential of the outer planet sextiles and trines. We've really got an opportunity here, and I think that learning to be with our inner community is what we're trying to do here. And how we do that is always being watched, right? I mean, the inner community, the pluralism within our consciousness is always there. And when a part comes up, how we react and how we move through that energy is always being watched by the rest of our system. And so each time it happens, we have an opportunity to show up well and to relate to it rather than to overpower it and try to be the one. I keep thinking about this Highlander. I'm aging, I'm dating myself. This is an old movie, The Highlander. There can only be one. And boy, that is taught throughout our culture, and I think to our detriment, you know. I think this is really what is needed is this community intelligence. I got this phrase from Jason Hawley. I was recently watching a video of him and Gray Crawford and John Seelig talking about the Odyssey film that's coming out. And I'm going to go see this. I'm excited about it, but I'm also excited. I want to actually read the book and experience the actual mythology. I'm big into mythology, and I feel very green with it, you know. But one of the things that they talk about is Zeus's law, and I can't remember the word for it, but he talked about that it's not about just welcoming. But I really loved what it was saying. Zeus's law is about welcoming whoever shows up at your doorstep because it might be you at a different time, right? Whatever shows up at your doorstep, they get fed, they get to sit by the fire, they get a shower, and then we can talk about where they are and who they are. And I like to relate this to the inner community and talk about that community intelligence, as Jason Hawley put it so well, because the community intelligence understands that we are a delicate part of this this ecosystem, this inner community system, and the way that we respond is learning. The other parts of us are learning what's going to happen. And if we create a culture of fear, this inner culture, that's another thing that I think that my inner Saturn, that my Saturn is trying to teach me, is this inner culture forms rules. It forms, every culture forms rules that are unspoken, and not one part of the culture is responsible for those. But, uh, the gay community or the LGBTQIA community has been trying to overcome these cultural rules for a long time. And those can be so prevalent and so well ingrained in us. And so, how we receive these parts of ourselves, if fear comes up, can we receive that and be present and be there with it without an agenda, without worrying about what that means? Can we be there? Can we only lead when it's absolutely necessary? And what I mean by that, I think I talked before about meeting a part of myself that was afraid. I was going to do Wachuma and it was afraid, and I couldn't figure out what to do. I asked if maybe it wanted to go do something else while I did it, but ultimately, what it really wanted was me to be there with it, to be there with him and hold his hand and go through the experience together, and to be able to provide that safety by being there, being present. And all it needs is acknowledgement. All it needs is to be there, right? But I had this agenda, right? I wanted to be able to get it to step back and move away, but that's exactly what it didn't want. That was a form of abandonment. And so to be able to be there with it and embrace it and hold that and to be there. Uh, that's the way real leadership works. It's relational, it's not domination based. And for us that have been raised in this American culture, and I'm sure it permeates other cultures too, this rugged individualism, it just doesn't match with that relationality. We're taught that that is weakness, and we need to root it out, and that's not true. Okay, well, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to also make a video for this full moon coming up, so stay tuned for that. As always, I'm going to put my information in the details, the description, the video description. If you want a reading, if you want to talk about where these archetypes are showing up for your chart and how it all interacts together, be happy to look at it for you. If you have questions, put them in the comments. Like, subscribe. I'd love to talk more about this. And I look forward to seeing more of you guys. Thanks, guys.